I have Bull James with me. Bull Dempsey, you might know him as from his time in NXT. You've been working with ISPW, New Jersey Independent Promotion, and you've been part of the last match. It's not a play, it's not a Broadway production, it's not a wrestling show. It's sort of encompasses all of those things, and four total performances at White Eagle Hall in New Jersey. Looking to see what a little bit more about what your role in the production is. I feel like production is an appropriate title for it because, like I said, it's not a wrestling show, it's not a Broadway show, it's all of those things. But how you doing today?
I'm good, Bill. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, the last match was one of the coolest experiences of my life. It was really, really awesome. Um, at first, because of how wrestling is, you don't know really what you're getting into. You hear this guy has an idea, and oh yeah, we have these Broadway stars that are going to be on the show. We're like, do you though? Like, is this real? Like you don't believe it until it happens, and then when it happens, you're like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
That's just coming from being jilted by the wrestling business, for so long. But yeah, man, everybody was so awesome to work with, from Ramin and Amber, and obviously, Matt Cardona, who I've known for years now, Jeremiah James and Rachel, the producers, and just all the way down. Every single person involved was an absolute pleasure to work with. And basically, Alpha and myself were tasked with training the actors to get through wrestling matches.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had about 8 days with them, maybe like an hour and a half a day. So it was a tall order, but we pulled it off.
I've kind of seen, just knowing Tommy Fierro, ISPW promoter. I talked to Jeremiah before the first performance. I think that was even before the listening party happened. Like, it was very early in the process, and he was kind of saying the same thing about, I'm a wrestling fan, I know what I want out of it, I know kind of what it's going to be, but you kind of have to sell it to the Broadway crowd. And you kind of made a point that there's you said you were jilted, but I think there's sort of this skepticism coming from pro wrestling, like, oh yeah, we know, but is it really going to be that? Like, so
right.
As far as I can tell, everybody that has seen it has loved it. There was some ambition to make it a touring performance. Is there any news on, like, maybe another performance locally, or just?
I know that there's a lot of stuff in the works. I know that one of the hopes was to bring it to Vegas at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now it's just this, because the thing is this whole production blew up way quicker than anybody anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's like you have all these different people, hitting everybody up, and hey, we want to do this. Maybe we'll tour here. Maybe we can do this. And so, like, it's a really good problem to have, but it's also like making everybody go, okay, we got to put our working boots on and really try to, hammer down what we want to do next. We got a bunch of nominations, I think 17 from Broadway World New Jersey Awards, which is really cool. And I'm sure that it'll kind of disrupt their world if myself and Alpha win Best Choreographer. So we're looking forward to kind of flipping them on their heads with that one. But yeah, man, it's like I said, it's a great performance. It's a great show. And that was, one of the other things too, is going into it, we were also kind of there, not just, besides the in-ring stuff, we were there to kind of make sure that the business was protected, or at least portrayed in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And, just even basic things like terminology and stuff like that. Like, because, you don't want wrestling fans going there and being like, oh, they didn't say this right. Oh, this was off. We want to stay true to the sport that we love. So yeah, it was a tall order, but like I said, everybody kind of pulled it all together and pulled it off. And for the Broadway people that were skeptical, that's where it helps having people like Ramin and Amber, because they're so well known in that world. Um, it was really the perfect storm from both sides.
Yeah. Voting is open through New Year's Eve, I believe.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a certain time you have to vote by, but I know it's December 31st. The voting's open. Uh, Best choreography of a player in musical. You're actually leading right now. You have,
So far, yep.
you have a pretty sizable lead compared to second. There's a lot of like, this isn't just like 4 or 5 productions or nominees. Like I think there's like 20. So,
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
yeah, it's pretty cool that, to see your name on the top of the list.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And all the credit goes to Jeremiah and Tommy for hooking me up with Jeremiah, and recommending me for the job. And I'm just excited to see where it goes. It's it's a little bit different because it's not what I'm used to, but it really has been like one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done. So I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, and I want to see it as it was intended, in the ring, in a venue, but at least until that happens, I'm hoping that it was filmed in some way and somebody's like, okay, here, go check. Like I am getting I don't want to say FOMO, but like, I really feel like I missed out because I couldn't go. Like the second production, I was like, oh man, I'd really, really like to go and I couldn't. So I'm hoping somebody has more than just what made its way on social media.
We do. There was a 5 camera shoot the first time we did it.
Mm.
So I'm sure at some point uh, that might get released. So keep an eye out for that one.
Even if I get a screener, like just saying, I won't share it. It's just
I'll tell Jeremiah you want to do a review.
okay. Uh, we talked briefly about ISPW, but two-time champion there. You just started working with Maven, who
Yeah,
earlier in the year you said he was a bit of a thorn in your side. So talk about that relationship, because obviously you coming from NXT, you have a television production uh, background, or TV wrestling experience. Obviously, he does with all his work in Tough Enough and WWE. Uh, what's that like? Did you guys? How long have you known each other? Like, because I don't think uh, he would have been gone from WWE by the time you got there. So what?
yeah, he was gone for a while.
I would say about 5, 6 years, maybe. If I'm
Probably, yeah, probably.
so,
But yeah, Maven, like I I never met Maven before until he started working with ISPW and Tommy.
hmm,
But we hit it off like immediately. He's such an easygoing guy. He's so much fun to be around. Super supportive and enthusiastic. Like just a great guy to have in any locker room. Um, and so yeah, we hit it off, and we started working together when he was managing the former Danny Doring, now Danny Morrison, and then we worked together again when he was managing Justin Carino. And Tommy and I, I've known Tommy since I was 17 years old and breaking into wrestling.
hmm,
And so, he asked my advice on some stuff, or just for ideas and things like that, and I do the same with him. And I just had this idea that maybe instead of you know Maven trying to elevate a guy like Justin, um, who a lot of fans might not know, but who is super talented, Justin Carino.
hmm.
Um, and I'm kind of sitting there just doing the same old thing I've been doing for over a year now. I was like, let's change it up a little bit, and then and now it's not two guys who where one's picking up slack for the other. It's two guys with that TV wrestling experience who have both been there in their own right. And it's pretty cool. And I think that it's a cool thing that's going to be a lot of fun. And we have a lot of ideas that we're already kicking around. And like I said, with Maven's enthusiasm and stuff, like it's just if we can bring this like the way we are in the locker room together out to the world, then I think that it really has some legs.
Mm. Yeah, and one really good example, if you want to show somebody how charismatic Maven can be. You guys just posted a promo not too long ago about the relationship being a year in the making, and uh, him talking about seeing your star on the rise, and you end with the shot of the New York skyline. Like, when you were in NXT, like, you weren't really known as a promo guy, but you did do them from time to time. But it almost feels like just being next to him, like, plays to your point where, it's not somebody picking up the slack for one another. It's almost like you did it for yourself, and you were like, okay, here's where I need to be. And you just played off of each other. And it wasn't like, okay, I need to lead. You know what I mean? Like, it just
Yeah,
felt very
absolutely.
natural. Like, neither one was waiting for each other. The timing was just really there.
Yeah, and it's funny because you know, obviously being in NXT and being around Dusty Rhodes, for geez, 2 years, until he passed away. Um, I learned a lot from Dusty, and um, my promos were always solid. Dusty was a fan of mine. He fought for me tooth and nail. And it really wasn't until like towards the end of my time in NXT when I was doing the bullfit stuff with Regal where it really started to, like, I was able to show a little bit of depth and what I could do,
Mhm.
to the point where the first promo I did with Regal with the Doritos bag and the chocolate bar,
Mhm.
Regal went to the writers and he went to bat for me and he said, "I think I found my new Tajiri." And in my
That's a
head, I
hell of
was
a
like,
compliment.
"Oh yeah," and in my head, I was like, "Yep, yes, you did, yes, you did. Let's go, let's do this." And I wrote out a list of ideas that never got used, and I'll share one with you because it's one of my favorite things in the world. Uh, I wanted to film at a Lamaze studio. And so you see all these pregnant women with their husbands holding them, doing the breathing exercises, and it pans over, and there's me in Regal's arms, blown up, and he's trying to walk me through this breathing exercise. I thought it would have been awesome. Really, that's the one that I'm really upset that we never got to do.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I I wish that some stuff like that would have come to fruition, because I remember, like, I lived in Florida not right when NXT started, but uh right after, like, like the takeovers started, like they were still at Full Sail.
right.
And I remember, you can't they had you as like this prize fighter guy. You came out in like the boxing jacket. It was, very like, uh I'm coming to the ring to, kick ass. And I think, I don't know if it was real life or the character, but there was some references to like the relationship with Taz. But then you went to this bullfit thing, and it was like, for whatever reason, it just worked. Like, and I think I see similarities in today's, or like the NXT 2.0, and even right now that it's just being called NXT, but where you're getting a chance to sort of do that work. And it's an experiment. Like, you get to see what works, you get to see what fans like, you get to see what kind of range you have. But were they going to do anything? I kind of got on off on a tangent there. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
But as far as like the bullfit gimmick, was there ever plans to maybe capitalize on it, as far as uh making it an actual brand, making merchandise? Was it to sort of bring you back to another character? Like, what was the direction for that? Because I obviously it started off as a comedy gimmick, and we saw some really great stuff, and you just shared what could have been a really good segment. But what was like the end goal for that whole thing?
Well, it was at first. It was it was a comedy gimmick, and I just was trying to give everything I had, to make it work.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until after the first couple of like training vignettes aired, we were in Largo, I remember, and a fan came up to me, and they were like, they had a big baggy bullfit shirt on because they just released a T-shirt,
Hmm.
and he's like motioning like up and down his body, and I was like, okay. And then he's like, do you notice? Like, I lost weight. This was a fan that came regularly. And I was like, oh, yeah, you did. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm getting bull fit. And then I started getting more and more like messages like that on like Instagram or comments and stuff, you know. And I was like, wow, like people are actually like using this as like motivation. Like this is actually cool.
Mhm.
Because you know, you get the audience on Twitter that's, oh, they're fat shaming him and I was like, no, I was like on board with this from the minute that Hunter pulled me aside and asked me if I would want to do it, you know, and I wasn't scared for my job to say no. I was like, no, this is something cool, unique. It's coming straight from the boss's mouth. So obviously, you know, he believes in it.
Mhm.
So let's try it. And then when that kind of stuff started happening, um, that was where I was like, okay, we can really capitalize on this more. So I had pitched the old Hulkamania weight set. I had pitched like bringing that back, but with me doing it, obviously, and you know, because it's cheap to make. So like, you know, obviously, a company like WWE is gonna they want low production cost that they can mark up in price to make money on it.
Mhm.
I pitched that. When Triple H did his workout video, I wanted to be the one guy in the background doing like the assisted workout for people that maybe weren't in shape that were doing the DVD, but
Yeah.
that one never happened. Um, so I mean, I think there were plans on the table, and it just came down to like a budget thing, and it, you know, it is what it is. Um, but you know, there was some ideas thrown around. Would have been nice to see them come to fruition, obviously, and see the hard work pay off. But um, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had in the wrestling ring in my life. So
Is there, you know, favorite memory, in-ring memory that you have? Like, I won't say like one match, but
yeah,
any.
there's a couple. There's a couple. There's even this was before Bullfit, the first San Jose show. That was the first time we did a live event outside of Florida, and it was WrestleMania weekend. We sold the place out, and I was on match number 2 with Jason Jordan, and we had to follow Kenta hitting the go to sleep for the first time in the States. And we looked at each other and went, "Oh no," because Jordan wasn't even on TV yet, really a lot.
Yeah.
I was just starting to get used, and so we were both like, oh no, like, we're done for. They're gonna eat us alive." But by the end of the match, you know, we got them. And the cool thing was Jim Ross was like in the first or second row. And I remember when we watched the video back, Jason and I just watched JR.
Mhm.
And by the, you know, he sat there and he just took it all in. And at the end of the match, he gave us a round of applause. And I was like, all right, cool. We got him. Like, that was like the audience I was playing to with that match. And then the entire UK tour, I was basically married to Sean Spears that whole tour. And I still to this day, people tweet me about it and bring it up as like one of their favorite matches that they've ever seen live and things like that. And that's really cool because, you know, at this point, you know, you're talking 6, almost 7 years ago, you know, so it's really cool to kind of leave that impression on people, especially, you know, on the other side of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them I'm thinking of, it was when you were working with Baron Corbin. Uh, I know one of them, a few of them probably happened on TV, but I know Takeover Rival was the one where Kevin Owens beat Sami Zayn, and I know you guys worked on that show.
Yeah.
That was one that personally I enjoyed, and just that whole event was really cool because it wasn't the first takeover, but it just felt like something different was coming, and I think obviously we've seen that over the past what is it, 6 or 7 years, but uh yeah, there was some really good stuff coming out of that era of NXT.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and obviously, yeah, Baron was another guy that I really got on with, and we had, you know, really, I think, you know, I can't speak for him, but, you know, I enjoyed working with him. And, you know, that match as well, we kind of, we wanted to do so much more because it was no DQ,
Mhm.
but they really handcuffed us on it. And so people were always like, they didn't do anything. I was like, we weren't allowed. Like we tried. The most we got was swinging a chair at Baron and missing and giving him a suplex on the ramp. We were sitting there trying to put each other through the announce table and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, and then moments like that, moments like obviously the Barclays Center in my hometown in Brooklyn, and having my parents in the front row. Danny Doring was also in the front row for that, sitting with my parents. Um, so yeah, it was really cool moments in a relatively short amount of time, like over the course of 2.5 years.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I mentioned the voting. You can vote now through New Year's Eve, December 31st. ISPW Winter Warfare. You'll be there January 20th.
Yes.
Anywhere else people can see you in the coming weeks?
Yeah. Right now, January 12th, I will be at Outlaw Wrestling in Queens. And then obviously the 20th will be ISPW. And then on January 31st, I will be in Florida at Boca Raton Championship Wrestling. Um, and, it's really cool that I'm really so happy that Tommy brought ISPW back. Because, like I said, I've known him since I was 17. He was the first promoter to give me an envelope and pay me to work. And I just have so much respect for everything he's doing with the Wrestling Collector Store and 80s Wrestling Con and ISPW. I don't know how he does it, but he's doing some amazing stuff, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I met him a few years ago. It's really cool because at the time he was just like, oh, I'm doing this convention, and it's like, okay, like let's figure out how we can work together, and then all of this other stuff that snowballed from it, and it's like really like how do you do it all?
Yeah, it's nuts. I give him all the credit in the world, man. He's one of the most dedicated people I know. So, just trying to keep building it and build to the big 80s Wrestling Con convention and the ISPW show at night at the Menon Arena in Morristown, May 6th.
Yeah, absolutely. 80s Wrestling Con 4. I believe 20 names are announced so far with more to come. So a lot to look for. Thanks for your time. It was good getting a chance to meet you, catch up with your career, and good luck in the voting.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you having me on, man.